When we engage in these life transformational practices, our mind and intellect get adorned with divine virtues. But then, if we are not careful to avoid worldly association, this can cause the greatest loss. When exposed to bad association, we don't realize. The senses experience the immediate gratification and the intellect becomes allured. And before we realize it, we have wasted our time, pulled down our consciousness, and polluted the mind. Just as it is important to engage in the spiritual practices, it is equally important to avoid kusang. What is kusang? Bad association. Association that makes our mind worldly. Why is that dangerous? Because it eats away our spiritual gains. One man was making a rope out of grass. Behind, a bull was standing and eating it. This man continued to make his rope for an hour, and then thinking he had probably made 50 yards by now, he pushed his hand backwards and was shocked to see that all he had in his hands was a 3-foot rope. He looked back and found the bull had eaten the rest of it. In the same way, when we engage in these life transformational practices, our mind and intellect get adorned with divine virtues. But then, if we are not careful to avoid worldly association, that kusang eats away our sadhana. We may earn slowly, but if we can avoid the losses, we will soon become wealthy. One man approached me and said, "Swamiji, I am in debt." I said, "What's the matter? How much do you earn?" He said, $1,000 a day. I said, "Really? Then how come you're in debt? You should be having $30,000 a month." He said, "No, my expenses are $5,000 on a daily basis." So the earnings may be less, but if the expenses can be avoided, then a person moves forward. And if the losses are bigger than the gains, then there is no scope of going ahead. Similarly, alongside with our spiritual practices, it is critical to avoid unnecessary bad association. However, the material mind finds a rasa, a joy in it. Wasting time looking at unnecessary movies, television shows, reading magazines, talking frivolous things with people, all this is tantamount to kusang. There are two kinds of sangha association described in the scriptures. Satsang, that association which uplifts the mind towards the divine, and kusang, or such association that pulls the mind down to the lowest dredges. In today's world, the exposure to kusang is far higher than before. We are constantly bombarded with advertisements in media from all sides. If we don't discipline ourselves, this can cause the greatest loss. The problem is, at the time when we are indulging in the kusang, we experience a kind of happiness and the intellect gets lowered by it. It is unable to comprehend the long-term harm that such association causes. The Mughal king Akbar was touring Delhi on his elephant. A drunkard was standing by the side. The drunkard looked at him and said, "Kyon be? Hathi bechega?" "Oh you, will you sell me your elephant?" Akbar felt extremely insulted. How dare a commoner speak like this to the Badshah of Hindustan? He instructed Birbal, "Let this man be presented in my court tomorrow." That drunkard, when he came to his senses, he realized his folly. He requested Birbal for help. Birbal said, "Never mind, I'll tell you a strategy." The next day, when the man came to Akbar's court, the emperor asked him, "Did you ask me whether I'll sell my elephant?" Man said, "Oh Badshah, how can I ever dare say such a thing to a great king like yourself? And I don't have the money to buy an elephant. And even if I did, why should I buy it from you?" Akbar said, "Then who said it to me?" "Maharaj, I know who did. Give me the permission. I'll present him before you tomorrow." Akbar agreed. The next day, the man came with a bottle of alcohol and he placed it on the table before the king. Akbar said, "What nonsense is this?" The man said, "Badshah, it was this bottle which said it." "What do you mean?" "I mean, at that time I was drunk. The intellect was not working. I didn't know what I was doing. Now my intoxication is gone away and I am back in my senses." Similarly, when exposed to bad association, we don't realize. The senses experience the immediate gratification and the intellect becomes allured. And before we realize it, we have wasted our time, pulled down our consciousness, and polluted the mind. That is why, just like our spiritual practices, it is also extremely important to shun bad association, which is kusang. We will now progress from here for the last 2 episodes in this 21-day life transformation challenge.
It was a transformational experience for me.
Truly life-changing and inspiring.
Participating in yoga and pranayama meditation, I could just let go of myself. It was just amazing.